9 o'clock, we are here. Today, no late start. Welcome. This is Sports Zone on Joy Prime. I'm Fenjo Tahir Fenjo, your host. Coming up over the next 90 minutes, I hope. We only have 60, don't worry. But soon, we'll get 90 minutes. So coming up over the next 60 minutes today, we'll talk Kumasi Asante Kotoko. They unveiled a new head coach today and a technical director, but nobody knows for how long he's going to be there for. In other words, Ogum has been given a perpetual contract. We'll analyze that in the realm of modern practice and what that means for Kumasi Asante Kotoko going forward. We'll talk Community Shield, where Arsenal laid down a marker ahead of the new season, beating Manchester City to the Community Shield title. Has this particularly given them the psychological advantage that they needed ahead of the new season? We'll talk about that. Also, some transfers. Kudus Mohammed to Brighton. The news is that he's this close to joining them. But how does he fit into Roberto De Zerbi's team? We will analyze that for you here on the show. United have already signed their new striker, Rasmus Højlund, for £72 million. But what does he bring to this team? We'll talk about that. Benjamin Azamati has withdrawn from the World Championship squad for Ghana. Big blow for Team Ghana, but there is some hope with some others doing some really good work, especially in the women's high jump. We'll talk about that. At the Women's World Cup, Nigeria put up a brave performance, but their journey at the World Cup has come to an end at the hands of England. We'll play back what was a dramatic game, but even before their exit earlier today, tournament favourites and the last 2 editions winners, the USA, were shocked and kicked out of this competition. All of that to come here, plus your messages, which are welcome, on 0551 575757, 0551 575757. That is on WhatsApp. Your thoughts on all of the things we'll be talking about here, even including things that we may not be talking about here that you want to bring our attention to. Your thoughts on all the major sporting stories making the headlines are very much welcome here on the show. The show is yours. Also on Twitter, and I really prefer you to use Twitter. Use the hashtag SportsZone. Leave your message there. I will retweet them and share them with the rest of our viewers from across the globe. This show, remember, is sponsored by Syntex Tank and also, of course, Hunters. When we come back from this really short break, I will introduce my guest and then we can start to show you some highlights. This is Sports Zone on Joy Prime. My name is Fenjo Tahir Fenjo. The show is brought to you by Syntex Tank and also Hunters. So Syntex Tank, they have the best quality water tanks in town. Whatever your water tank needs are, just talk to Syntex Tank. They will sort you out. They've got tanks with various layers for you. The first to introduce double layer tanks, and now you can basically have all the number of layers you want in your tank. They also give you as much as 7-year warranty when you buy a Syntex tank, and they're affordable as well. So durable, affordable, and also come in various colors. So if your house is painted in a particular color and you don't want a boring black water tank in your house, talk to Syntex Tank. They have just the right color to even match the color in your house. Syntex Tank distributors are nationwide, but also check out all of their social media pages. And when you reach out to Syntex Tank, just tell them that you want the Fenjo discount. They'll give it to you. It's called a family discount, okay? The show is also brought to you by Hunters. And Hunters, of course, another quality product being distributed, of course, by Casa Preco Company Limited. Whatever your refreshment needs are in that family gathering, or whether it's a night out or a night in, on a hot day, on a cold day, your choice of refreshment, of course, should be Hunters. And they come in different flavors. The newest one, of course, being the red apple cider, which brings you a taste of real apples in it. So next time you go to the supermarket, you'll check it out and get yourself a Hunters. All right, cool. Now we're here. I'm joined, of course, by my 2 favorite people, 2 musketeers, Suchofe Philip Achrim and Daniel Cranton. Guys, welcome to the show. Why must you always be so dramatic?
Because I'm in a very good mood.
I don't get it. Good mood?
Yeah.
Why? What's putting you in a good mood?
I just came off the phone with Mikel Arteta.
You have Atete's number.
Oh, but you know Atete and I go way back.
Abunana.
Oh, this is not something I should tell you. You know this already.
What were you two talking about?
We're talking about yesterday's game, talking about this season, how the prospects for this season looks like, and it's looking positive. So I'm happy. Yeah.
Interesting. Do you believe him, teacher?
He says so.
Oh, I can show you.
We can't believe anything anybody says.
What I believe or not, it's
on this show, everything is scrutinized.
Absolutely, but what I believe or not is irrelevant. He says he's going to give us
he's going to do what?
The last time he was chatting with
I just saw you. He just tried to search for Ateta. He's not in there.
No, because I call him Mickey.
Mikel or Mickey. But the last time he was trying to show.
If I tell you right now, with my whole life, and ask you, call Mickey, put it on loudspeaker. Your microphone is there. Let the whole audience know that Mikel Arteta will answer your phone. Would you do it? If I put my life on the line.
Wada.
Mikel Arteta, wada. All right, let's get into this into it then, because quite a lot happened this weekend. But one thing that fascinated me happened earlier today. A video surfaced on social media, earlier today, of the 10 RFA chairman, Regional Football Association chairman, apparently endorsing Kotoko to go for the GFA presidency. We've got the video here. Take a look.
The president to stand for another 4-year term. This is the form we are going to endorse for you. It means that we are fully supporting for what he has done for the regions. He has done marvelously well. You cannot mention it. Only to come and then pick this form in appreciation for what he has done. And we believe the next 4 years he will do more. That's why we decided that all the 10 regions to stand here before you, gentlemen, pick this form to endorse for you.
Okay. All the 10 RFA chairmen have endorsed Kotoko to go for his second term in office. Well, if you look at the GFA presidential nomination form, it says that he only needs 5 members of the FA to endorse his form and back him to go. He's got 10 from the RFA chairman alone. The FA, of course, is made up of over 100 members, so he's got more than necessary. And, there really isn't much to say there, except, that these are all indications of what you should expect in that September 27 election. Kotoko definitely looks like he's got the support of quite a lot of very influential people in the football ecosystem. So, and it looks like the RFA chairmen are very happy with what Ket is doing for the RFAs. Of course, after all, the last election, at the last Congress, he promised them pickup trucks. He promised them a salary of 4,000 Ghana cedis a month. If you were an RFA chairman, with all these promises, Daniel, would you endorse another person?
Well, vote quick.
I'm sorry. my screen is falling apart. So there's that. I just needed to get that out of the way. But we'll see. The road back to the elections are quite, and they look like they're long, but it's not, because the elections are just next month. And, we'll see who else picks up a form for the presidency. So far, only Kotoko has stuck his neck out in terms of actually picking up the form. Others had indicated their intentions to contest, but nobody has picked up a form yet. So that's that by way of GFA elections. Let's go to Kumasi. Prosper Nate Ogum is back for his second term as Kumasi Asante Kotoko head coach. He was unveiled earlier today at the Babaya Sports Stadium. The team actually met Otumfuo 82. What we can tell you for sure is that, number one, Otumfuo has indicated his intention to invest in the team financially, but crucially, Prosper Ogum and the contract he signed at Kumasi Asante Kotoko has no duration on it. In other words, Otumfuo has basically told him, sign a contract to work for Kotoko as a permanent employee, and you will continue to have the job as long as the performances continue to be good. And, of course, Kwesi Appiah was unveiled as the technical director of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, and he said that Kotoko should not expect immediate success, and that the mandate that they have, they will begin to see any kind of success in the next 3 years. So in other words, this is more or less like assured longevity, assured sustainability in the Kumasi Asante Kotoko project. What does all of this mean for the club going forward? I'll take the thoughts of my guest in here, but let's hear from Prosper Ogun from that press conference.
I am overly excited. I'm so overwhelmed. I think there is nothing in my life, probably apart from the day I got married, that can be compared to this moment. And I am overly excited based on the fact that I've been chosen by His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II and the whole of Asante Man to lead or to technical affairs of this renowned and successful club on the continent and of our nation.
All right, so he says he's not been this excited to do anything in his life. This is the second most excitement he has felt. The first one being the day he got married. The second one being he's returned to the club for his second stint. Very interesting proclamations from him, obviously. But your thoughts on, and Sicho, let me throw this one to you first, on the whole idea that he's not been giving any sort of duration. It's more or less like a permanent employee job kind of thing. Come and do the work, and so long as your work is good, you remain Kotoko coach. It's basically coach for life.
The whole thing is a bit sketchy, isn't it? It's not clear enough. It's difficult to understand what the direction of the club is. Yeah. I know they want to take time and find a proper system to run the club, but what they have in place now is interim. And if it is interim and a manager has been appointed to guide the club, and as you put it, without necessarily any timelines bound to it.
Yeah.
If in the end you put together a proper management team to lead the club, and that management team doesn't have goals that aligns with the manager, then what happens? So I just think, it's difficult to tell how it ends or how successful this project can be, but as it stands, it's not too clear what the direction looks like. And the thing is, for football as well, it's a lot bigger than just the coach and the players. Yeah. You have a feeling Kotoko have maybe just focused so much on the playing body, a coach, maybe a technical direction for now, and the other side of the club hasn't necessarily been focused on, because they need to do business, they need to bring in revenue, they need to people to to bring in sponsorship, make money. The brand in itself needs a better feel about it, and you wonder how long that is going to take before they fill these places. So and also the other thing, it looks like it's a massive setback on what Nana Amponsa had done, because Nana Amponsa was building something, right? Okay. And all of a sudden it looks like it's been scrapped, and they might have to start from the scratch, and that for me is a step back, because the Nana Amponsa had his problems, but he had done some great works with Kotoko. I was thinking there should have been a continuation, not necessarily with him in person, but it should have been continuation in the way the club was going. You think
they were heading in the right direction?
I think there are aspects of the club that were heading in the right direction. And I think what they've done now, to bring in a technical director who oversee signings and a coach, that was something that might have been lacking under him. But when it comes to the other side of it, the business side of it, the branding of the club, the image of the club, a strong personality behind the club who looked like, in quotes, no nonsense. Nobody could throw anything at Kotoko and expect them to bite it. It wasn't a pushover, absolutely. So I think it's a step back in that direction.
That's an interesting thought.
You took the club, and today when the players are dressed and sat there, you could see the difference in what they've looked like in the last 3 years and how they look like.
Do you think that they might still, or will still bring in a CEO as things stand? Because it almost seems to me like Kwesi Appiah could be doubling as a quasi CEO as things stand. Is that an absolute necessity at the moment that they bring in somebody else?
Daniel?
I think they do, because a football club is a bit more than just
the players.
Yeah, just the players and the recruitment and the things that happen on the pitch. So, continuing from what Sicho was talking about, the image of the club, the branding, the marketing aspect of it, how well Ghanaian Ponsa did it, you would want somebody to come in and continue from that aspect. But yeah, from the footballing side of things, I think Kotoko are doing the right thing. What struck me about the unveiling was what Nane, one of the guys on the committee, said. He said, moving forward, they are going to make the players and the coach the image of Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And I think that was brilliant. I don't understand why in our part of the world, when it comes to our football, we have administrators.
PROs are more popular than the players
and the coaches. When you want something, you are going to a CEO. The CEO is basically in the faces of everybody, and nobody even knows. The average football fan in Ghana doesn't even know.
Is it bad though?
It's not the best.
Because I think Florentino Perez is more powerful than the Madrid player. Joan Laporta,
they are more powerful, but they may not be more famous.
But they are popular because of the way their clubs are running elections.
No, I get you.
And also elections are held, so you can understand the way those clubs run. I think the system is different in Spain and Italy. Yeah. I think the go-to example Daniel's talking about is England. You know, in England, we know them, but they're not in our faces.
Exactly. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
You know Daniel Levy, but I don't think you've ever remember him granting an interview anywhere.
He doesn't.
Thank you.
He doesn't, because that's not his job.
Yeah, I think
that's not his job. So
I really do.
In building the product, you have to make the assets. The guys
Todd Bowley was behaving like the Nyan Ponsa, but that's a different story.
And where did he end up?
every day he's in the dressing room.
But it's something that I feel is very progressive, and I think if they're able to successfully implement what he said, I think other clubs in Ghana should also emulate what Kotoko is doing, because that is how football is supposed to be. You're supposed to know the players, put them in your faces, put the managers in your faces. Let's talk football. Let's not talk administration.
Quick question. Kwesi Appiah says Kotoko fans should not expect success now, and that success will come after 3 years. But in the next 3 years, what would be a measure of progress?
I think success for Kotoko
is trophies.
It's trophies, and especially when you're playing the Ghana Premier League.
Yeah, but he says don't expect that for the next 3 years, that it would come in 3 years. And I'm saying that what would constitute a measure of progress for anybody to believe that in the third year or whatever?
I don't know. I honestly think he should have answered that question.
Yeah, really, because when you've brought in a coach
that's a fair one.
Yeah, when you brought in a coach like Ogum, who's a Premier League winner, and the season before he was a Premier League winner, he was third with Wafa. You're looking to win. He's a winner. He would want to win. So maybe Kotoko, maybe it should have been. Kotoko shouldn't expect to be competing in Africa, which we know the levels are different. Sure. But it doesn't matter what team Kotoko puts together, they should be good enough
domestically
to challenge for titles domestically.
Interesting. A club that is certainly challenging for trophies this season will be aiming to win the title will be Arsenal Football Club. They took on Manchester City in the Community Shield on Sunday. Arsenal finished second in the Premier League. Man City won the league, of course. The Community Shield is usually between the FA Cup winners and the league winners. Man City won both trophies, which meant that they had to resort to the Premier League and take the second place team. So there it is. Manchester City, of course, scored the first goal. Brilliant goal from this youngster. Fabulous finish. And he's won what? Palmer, he's won what? 4 trophies in the space of 3 months. He won the FA Cup, won the League Cup, not the League Cup, won the FA Cup, won the Champions League, won the Premier League trophy, won the Euro Under-21s with England, and he wanted to win his 5th trophy in just 3 months, and he laid down the marker. Brilliant finish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a spectacular finish, and I love the run by Walker, and even the celebration even better, because once he made that run, it meant that Tierney there was caught in 2 minds. He had to defend that space. That opened up the gap for Palmer to shape the ball to his left foot and get the killer away. It was perfect. Ramsey wasn't reaching it. Brilliant.
At this point, it looked like it was a bit unfair because Arsenal had really played very well, especially in that first half, didn't they, Daniel? The Man City caught them and punished them with a brilliant moment. And then for the rest of the second half, Arsenal just looked like a team that was bereft of ideas in that second half until this moment. Now, this happened in the 101 minute. Now, 90 minutes done. They added 8 minutes of injury time. But they ended up playing, of course, 11 minutes of injury time. And Arsenal's goals came in the 101st minute. So 1-0 into extra time. Of course, Arsenal win it. Your thoughts on that? Pep Guardiola, we'll talk about Arsenal and what this victory means for them. But let's just address that moment. The Premier League has said that going forward this season, they are recalculating the amount of injury time they're adding to games. In other words, there would be more injury time added because they want to, in quote, accurately reflect how much time is wasted on injuries. And that's exactly what they tested out in the Community Shield. And that's why they added 8 minutes of injury time and then ended up playing 11 minutes. Now, Pep Guardiola was absolutely livid after the game because he said they didn't consult the players, they didn't consult the coaches. He said the big brains at IFAB went to sit down and came up with their own rule. In fact, Rafael Varane released a statement of his own, also criticizing the system. But the whole idea is that players already played too many games in the season, and making them play that much injury time every single game is ridiculous. In other words, what it basically means is that every season, now especially starting this season, every single football game could actually end up traveling beyond the 100 minutes mark. Does Pep have a point, Daniel?
If you look at the signs, and this is basically the signs that FIFA used to also implement. We saw it at the World Cup.
Yes.
That's where it started. If you look at the signs, the actual time we spent on the pitch playing football wasn't even amounting to 60 minutes.
It wasn't even an hour.
It wasn't even an hour.
Yeah.
And that's why FIFA...
Because of the stoppages.
Because of the stoppages. Not necessarily injuries, but
Yes.
stoppages.
Yes.
And all those things add up. And it takes a bunch of time away from the game that is being actually played on the field. So that is the science behind it. So if you are adding an extra 10 minutes, an extra 11 minutes from what we've been seeing in FIFA competitions, and you back it up with the science, even that extra 11 minutes, you are not going to spend 11 minutes actually playing football.
And that's why 8 minutes became 11.
No, 8 minutes became 11 because there was a clash of heads between Partey and...
No, but I'm saying the same stoppages thing. So
yes,
it can happen.
That we will play extra more than what was added. But so if you look at it from that angle, you understand the science behind it. Yeah. But again, I feel like it might be controversial, but that's what I just feel. The coaches and the players are seeing it from an emotional point of view. When you see 11, it's like, hey, it's plenty. But there's actually a science to it.
Imagine defending a one-goal lead and seeing 11 minutes go up.
Look, there's actually a science to it. And if you read the science and you read, and it was Arsene Wenger, he's like the
brain behind
this thing. Yeah. So if you read it, you understand where they are coming from. And for me, if you take it outside the sport, if you go to hockey and you go to basketball, where they actually use a stop clock, they spend more time playing the sport during the duration that they say they are playing than football.
Yes.
So if anybody was complaining about games, basketball players play like what? 2 or 3, they can play like 3 matches a week.
Yeah.
And they play what? Quarter, an hour of non-stop. They keep on going.
Yeah.
And they're actually playing basketball for that hour until the buzzer goes off. So if you juxtapose that science with the football, I understand what FIFA and the FA are doing. I back it. And for a fan,
much ado about nothing.
For a fan too, I like it.
I think the psychological aspect of it matters. And as Danny said, when you look at the stop clock or the added time and it's 11 minutes, and you go on and play 15 more minutes, then you're looking at the time spent on the pitch, either by running or stopping or taking instruction or engaging, paying attention. Now, football is not only played by when you're kicking the ball or running, it's played with the concentration. So even if there's a stoppage, your concentration levels has to be high. Yeah. And that in itself can be mentally draining. I think what maybe solves it psychologically with optics would be if football adapts the stop clock. Because if in the stadium, every stadium has
what we see in basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if everything
or
has
even
got
American
that.
Football.
Absolutely. So if there's a stoppage, stop the clock.
Yeah.
So it still ends at 45. But if there's a stoppage at 32nd minute, and it took 2 minutes, the clock has stopped at the 2nd minute. When the play resumes, it resumes from then.
Yeah.
So if a footballer is playing, as soon as it's 45, your game's first half is done.
Yeah.
As soon as it's 90, the game is done. Because once they see the 11, the 15, it is the psychological processing of that that makes you feel that, oh, you've got 11 more minutes to play. But when your mind is fixated on 45 and 90, in which between that time the clock is stopped based on stoppages, that in itself should make it accommodate.
And what you're proposing would mean scrapping the whole injury time idea.
Yeah, because
then the injury time would have been accounted for.
Absolutely.
So if there's a foul, or there's a free kick, or there's an injury, you stop the clock. It's done in basketball, it's done in American football. So you know that the whole 45 minutes is spent playing.
Yeah.
And whatever time is spent during injuries or all those stoppages, they will just go out of the way. And for me, I think that is an interesting proposition. I don't know about what you think, so let me know. Use the hashtag SportsZone on Twitter and send in your messages. The number is also on your screen. But let's talk about the game itself. Arteta was asked specifically, Daniel, whether this was a statement victory and whether he thinks that he's finally lifted that psychological block that has existed between them and Man City. Remember, they've lost every single one of their last 10 games against Manchester City, no matter how good. In fact, was it you that said that the better Arsenal get, the bigger the margin of defeat against Manchester City? Is Arteta right? Does this victory necessarily lift the psychological barrier they have against Man City?
It does. It was a very important victory. I said it before the game that Arsenal needed to win this.
Yeah.
They needed to look Man City in the face and have the trophy in their hands, just to tell themselves that they will be able to beat Manchester City, because it's very important. Look, the fine margins count. We understand how very critical head-to-head can go when it comes to battling for the title. Last season, we all sat there when we were calculating the gap between Arsenal and Man City.
Yes.
Everybody confidently said Man City will beat Arsenal home and away because it had become a staple. We just knew that will happen. Yeah. But now Arsenal have beaten them. Arsenal will enter next season knowing that even when it comes to that one-off game against Manchester City, at least at the Emirates, we are capable of beating these guys. Yeah. And when you've gone through what they went through 2 seasons ago, missing out on top 4, that mental toughness that it gives you, following season, they're able to challenge for the league title. Of course, they struggle in the end, end up losing the title. Coming into this season, you've gone through that adversity. You've built yourself up. Now you've also beaten the guys who have consistently beaten you over the past few years to win a trophy, the first trophy of the year. In actual sense, if you look at it on paper and say, yes, Arsenal beat Man City for a Community Shield, City have lost the last 3, so it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But for Arsenal and what they've been through under the hands of Man City for the time being, this is very important, and it gives them a lot of confidence going into the next season.
Ticho, I mean, we saw in the game reasons why the whole party moving away from Arsenal was such a ridiculous idea. By far, still their very best player in the middle of the park.
Especially with the way Arteta wants to play. If Arteta wants to play the way he wants to play, he absolutely needs either Jorginho or Partey to be fit and play in that hole. I mean, Declan Rice is a very good footballer, but he's got a different job. And we saw him against Man City. True. The way he was galloping and closing down space, almost superhuman, really, because there's one point where you see him like some 15 yards off the pace, and in a flash, he's galloping to close them. Yeah. The space is down. I really enjoyed watching him do what he did. But that in itself also gave Partey the confidence to play the way he played, because you knew he had somebody who could do the box-to-box job. Odegaard didn't have to track back because he knew he had got 2 very good shields in behind him. And throughout the whole game, I thought Arsenal's shape was very good. Okay. Until Pep Guardiola did Pep Guardiola. I mean, exactly. He started the game with the double pivots, played Alvarez in a very shocking number 10ish on the right side. Something weird, right? And Arsenal were enjoying that until he brought the box back. Once he brought in, Kevin De Bruyne, shifted it into the midfield box. Arsenal struggled a little, Foden moved on. Arsenal struggled a little bit. They got better. For me, for Arsenal, it's a boost for their confidence and momentum. Okay. And the fact that Arteta can look on his bench, unlike last season, throw on players and the fact that the drop-off in quality of those coming onto the game or into the game isn't too far off from those on the pitch, in itself is a huge boost for them. But if you're City, you're not worried because you've been there before. Last season, Liverpool...
I was just going to talk about City because they don't... I mean, they lost to Leicester.
Leicester,
Liverpool. And they don't really care.
They went on to win the league.
And there were signs in that game that City are still the team to beat.
I think City are still the team to beat. And when you look at the fact that City have had a very, very short preseason, considering the turnaround time for their treble winning, their partying, and then having played only 3 games in preseason, and are now trying. And they're still in City. We are looking at Bernardo Silva wants to leave, a couple of players want to leave. It's not a very settled, team that this is the team you're going into the season with. So they've still got few things to fix there. There's a couple of players who will have to settle into the side. Kovacic has come through. Also, they brought in Vardiol. So City are still a very, very good team. And when the season starts, I think they are still going to be the team to beat because they've got a great manager and a talented pool of players.
All right, so that's what it is. So Manchester City is still a team to beat, but Daniel says this victory should give Arsenal a big psychological advantage. City have already added another player to their list, Josko Gvardiol. And I like the way they unveiled him. They spelled his name and Pep kind of just did correction because Gvardiol, Guardiola kind of sounds similar. You know, I'm explaining a joke like
Thomas Muller.
Thomas Muller, exactly. like Thomas Muller explaining the Lewandowski coach. What did he say? He said, we call him Lewandowski. Lewandowski. Oh, German humor. It's non-existent. Anyway, okay. One last thing we need to talk about, the transfers that have happened. Of course, Rasmus Højlund is going to Man United. I think last week we spoke about him. We've spoken extensively about him and what he brings. 72 million for 8 goals in the season. I mean, sure, why not?
9 goals. 9 goals.
Okay. I see if it makes a difference.
It does.
The players scored 9 goals in the entire season. They're going to pay 72 million. What's his name? What did he say? The British journalist, the Arsenal fan. Piers Morgan says they've spent the money on a striker they've never heard about, or have never heard of. But there he is. He was unveiled before that game. That created a bit of drama. Onana was in the news for all kinds of reasons. But yeah, at Old Trafford, a big signing. What solution does he solve at United? Daniel.
He helps in the link-up play. Brings the attackers together. Gets the best out of the likes of Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, who loves arriving late in the box, Mason Mount, who can do that. And of
Mason
course,
Mount. Have you watched him in pre-season?
Anthony.
Mm-hmm. Anthony. Sicho.
Listen, it's a difficult... Okay, now everything I said before during pre-season that they want to be the best transition team because traditionally United have got that.
So they're signing for transitions?
He's got...
Transitions is that actual?
He's got a ton of pace, right? His burst is good. He's got pace. He's just not an assured finisher. And I think when you want a striker for a club like Man United that needs goals like we saw last season,
okay,
that responsibility on his shoulders. I mean, he can come good. He's still very young. He's a talent. He's unpolished. He can come good. I just don't think he solved their goal scoring problems. But if they need players to carry the ball, make the runs into the channel on transitions, it could be one of those.
Interesting. Where's Benaya? Do you have the Onana goal he conceded? If you don't have it, I'll be very disappointed. Let's move it on then. One player that is desperately in need of move is Kudus Mohammed. The reports are that Ajax were very, very upset with him because he hadn't yet found an agreement with Brighton, despite the club agreeing a deal with Brighton for him to move to England. The reports are that Kudus Mohammed himself still hasn't agreed personal terms with the club. Before we came on air, I saw somebody tweet that personal agreement has been reached and that he will have a medical later this week and complete that move to Brighton. Now, Arsenal were interested in him. Chelsea were interested in him. For sure, I think we can all agree that going from Ajax Amsterdam to Brighton is definitely a step back in his career in terms of the magnitude of a team that he plays for. But in terms of what the team can do for him and what the league can do for him, this looks like a really big step. And let's say, barring any unforeseen circumstances or him failing a medical, Kudus Mohammed to Brighton look like it's going to happen. Sicho, what kind of player are Brighton getting? And secondly, how can he benefit from this? Because Kudus is only 22, and certainly he doesn't see Brighton as his last destination. He's looking at Real Madrid or Barcelona or Man United or even Chelsea or all of the big clubs at some point. Certainly not Brighton. Is this the club to take him to that next level?
Absolutely, I think so. I really think so. They have a very, very good culture. It hasn't mattered what coach comes in the last 4 years. We've seen Potter, we've seen De Zerbi, and we've seen talents who have come from nowhere and all of a sudden walked into the most difficult league in the world and have blossomed. We've seen Caicedo, we've seen Enciso from last season, we've seen Indef, Evan Ferguson is an example, we've seen Karim Mitoma. Solimatch wasn't necessarily flying under Graham Potter, but under De Zerbi has been a different animal altogether. So, yeah, and we saw even Levi Cole last season, Billy Gilmore when he got fit in Brighton. So, yeah, when you look at an atmosphere or an environment that gives him the platform to move his abilities or his playing style to the next level, it could very much be Brighton. And let's face it, in terms of team profiling, Brighton is nowhere near Ajax. Ajax is a giant of a club. But Mohamed Kudus only became a star in an Ajax team that was at its worst in the last 4 seasons or so. The more reason why last season they were not champions. They didn't really do well in Europe last season as well. So that was a team that was failing. They've even gone down more. That's why Dusan Tadic even cancelled his contract. Yeah. And Kudus as well, maybe he was thinking that post-Ajax, he would go to Real Madrid, he'd go to Liverpool, Man United, a bigger club, an elite club. But again, when you look at his performance in Ajax, when you look at the things that has happened to him in Ajax, sometimes not his fault, it's been down to injury or managers not preferring him or picking him. That has really stalled his progress that maybe he should have made. He went to Ajax with a lot of promise, started lots of games, got his knee injury, never got reinstated back into Erik ten Hag's team, and never really got minutes, And then when Schroeder came, Schroeder really struggled to find a place for him. It took Kudus trying to force a move for him to rethink where he could use him. He discovered that false 9 rule for him in Ajax, and he thrived. In fact, Kudus's best spells in Ajax was when he played in the false 9. It's not when he played in the middle. It's not when he played on the right. It's when he played as a false 9. Okay. And then when Schroeder left and Heitinga came through the door, where he thought, well, Brobe is good. He need a physical presence there. But Kudus is also good in and around the box. So they played him on the right, where he could get close into the box, check onto his left. So the point is, as we sit now, nobody really knows Kudus's best position. And that in itself is a problem for a youngster who is turning 22. But I think when it goes to a team like Brighton, that would very much be sorted out because Roberto De Zerbi has shown that he is one coach who knows how to unearth its talents.
That's an interesting perspective because, Daniel, that was going to be my next question. Where does he play at Brighton? Because there are people that say, maybe he said McAllister replacement. There are others that say, nah, maybe he will play further forward. When you look at the Brighton players that they have at the moment, where does Kudus fit in that system?
De Zerbi was asked, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, and he classified him as a forward. And I think this is a tangent that Sitcho has been on for well over a year.
For a very long time. That
Kudus is not fit for that deep midfielder role, offensive midfielder role. Number 10, number 8, that is not his game. His game is further up the pitch when he's in the box. He has a very good skill set where he can dribble past players and has a very good eye for goal. That's where he should be. Yeah. So I was doing some comparative analysis between Kudus and the players that are in the mold of the player people say he is. Yeah. That is the number 8 or number 10. And then also for players who are in the box, who also tend to be finishing off chances. So this is going to be interesting. Now, it is based on the premise of what Roberto De Zerbi said and how he classified Mohamed Kudus as a striker. So this is Kudus against Alexis McAllister.
Okay.
These are the numbers.
Yeah.
Now, Alexis McAllister as a midfielder in Brighton has fundamental rules. Brighton are a very attacking team. Okay. If you look at this mid-zone here, this mid-zone, it's purely greens for Alexis McAllister, and it's very important. You are looking at the shot creating actions. Yeah. Now, that is a combination of if he's dribbling, if he's passing, actions that he makes to produce a shot.
Yeah.
So that essentially translates to his creative ability. If you look at Kudus's raw chances creation score for last season, he was at the bottom for all the players who are on this list.
Okay.
You look at Kudus' shot creating action, that's 3.42. As against midfielders and attacking wingers, he's in the 46th percentile.
Wow.
And that becomes a problem against players that he wants to compete with in that role. That is be the number 8, number 10, or out wide.
So let's just simplify. Now, just go back to it. Let's just simplify for our viewers here. Okay. Just look at the shot on Daniel, and look at the amount of greens that you see on McAllister's scouting report and compare it to Kudus. And that is them in their midfield action. And clearly, one player has a lot more green sticking than Kudus Mohammed. And McAllister definitely has a lot more green sticking for him.
Yeah.
Now those greens are on all those other midfield.
Now let's go to Solimatch. Solimatch is was literally the most creative player at Brighton last season.
He's also very central.
No, he plays off the right coming in. And that's what Kudus did in the second half of last season, similar to that. Now, if you compare the two again, you look at the shot creating action, he's in the 78th percentile. His assist XG, they are all scoring higher than Kudus. When it comes to his defensive attributes also, they are all scoring higher than Kudus. You look at, it's a very similar thing when you compare Kudus to Mitoma, who plays on the other side of Brighton's wing. But if you look at this is also Nsisu, who plays right behind the striker. He didn't get enough minutes, but we saw that, and we know that next season he's going to clearly get. If you look at his shot creating action, 88th percentile. He's quite similar to Kudus. His passing attempted, he doesn't make a lot of passes. Yeah. His skill is his shot ability and his ball carrying, his take-ons. But his take-ons and his ball carrying actually results in shot creating action. So it just proves his creative ability. Yeah. Now, if you look at Kudus as a striker, a forward, this is Mohamed Salah as a striker.
And this is Kudus.
This is Kudus.
I can't see the difference.
Numbers.
I can't see the
These
difference.
Are greens. This is where he belongs. Now, this is the explanation. In as much as the numbers are the same, the volume of tackles, the volume of passes, the volume of dribbles that you need to make in the middle of the pitch are not the same as you need upfield.
True.
So if you are dribbling 2-3 players and taking a shot in the box, that is Kudus' game. In the midfield, you can dribble 2-3 players and you have to make that killer pass. That is not in his game. Yeah. But his attributes are based for the box. And I'm telling you, Mohamed Salah did 14-15 goals in his last 2 seasons before he came to the Premier League. First season in the Premier League and a club, he did 32. Under the right manager, under the right system with Bobby De Zerbi, as we've seen Brighton to be a creative machine. And again, modern football is moving away from individual creativity. Yeah. The system creates chances. Yeah. So if you have the skill set and you are in the right system, it will create the chances for you. If you look at Kudus' numbers, this is literally Mohamed Salah versus Kudus.
And they're so similar.
And it is very similar. It's greens throughout because Kudus can dribble 1-2, has the shot for goal. His positioning in the box, top tier. The amount of defensive actions you have to put in the box are not as many as you have to put in at a number 8 or number 10.
Even with those, he's still he's doing better.
He's doing better. So this is where he belongs, and I really believe that under Brighton. You see, we make this mistake by rushing our players. I was right, and I'll say it in the camera. I was right when I said Thomas Partey should leave Atletico and come to Arsenal. Yeah. Then it looked like a downgrade. But you're looking at the team you are coming to, the manager you are coming to, and the league you are coming to. Kudus is going to earn far much more money than he's making at Ajax. So monetary-wise, it's a boost. The Premier League and the exposure.
And the coach, really.
And the coach. Literally, all Kudus has to do is to have one good season at Brighton. And I don't buy into that idea of Brighton tend to sit on their players and don't allow them to go. We've seen Kukurea leave. We've seen McAllister leave. We've seen Bissouma. We've seen a ton of players leave. Ben White. All these guys have left the team. The thing is, if you have a smart agent, if you have negotiating a deal that will enable you to leave when you want to, there's no reason why you can't. And for me, Bobby De Zerbi, Brighton, is the perfect, absolutely perfect. He's one of the best managers in Europe. And for me, look.
That's a very exciting analysis. And I'm really glad that he did that. So, very interesting. You've seen the numbers for yourself. You've seen everything for yourself. You decide whether you think Kudus going to Brighton is the right move for him. This is Sports Zone on Joy Prime. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll take you around Europe to tell you what Ghanaian players are doing abroad, plus all of your messages here on the show. Don't go anywhere. Come back. This is Sports Zone on Joy Prime. Fento, Tahiro Fento. I've got some of your messages here. Let me read some of them on my tablet, and quite a lot of them have come in. This time I'll start from Twitter because lots of you sent me messages last week on Twitter. I didn't share them with the rest of our viewers. This one, it says, wow, great statistics from Daniel. Never knew Kudus is this good as a striker. All right, interesting message, that one. And this one says, shouts to Danny Case Baba. Oh, Charlie. He says, That message, okay, that earlier message was from, let me see, that came from Possible Eric, okay, Possible Eric with that message. This one says, Nee Connie says, anytime you mention Barney, it kind of prompts me because I'm also a Barney and you got my mother confused watching the show. Interesting. Personally, I think the squad depth of Ajax currently don't favor some of their players. No doubt Kudus will do well at Brighton, but I think the likes of Dortmund will be more accurate for him currently. That's Eric with that message. This message is from Marvin, who says, Charlie, guys, I'm a Ronaldo fan, but after watching Messi's free kick today, he is the god of football. Yes. Isn't he? All right. Eric Enzo also says, I totally agree with Sicho. I think the stopwatch should be rather used instead of adding injury time. Gator Reinhardt says, stop the clock will help football greatly. Teams will have good and bad moments with the stop the clock. Those teams who deliberately delay games will face their music with the clock if the stop the clock is introduced. All right. Amuli says, please, I need EPL Fantasy League code for Joy Sports. We'll provide it. Gambero Roland says, hi, fan. Daniel Levy's rejection of 100 million euros for a 30-year-old Harry Kane, who has a year left on his contract, is the most obnoxious story I have heard today. I just don't understand Mr. Daniel Levy. Amani Mutala says, good evening, friend. What Arsenal did is like writing BC to get SSC. To get to SS, but fail to get to KNUS or League One. They should win the league this year. Community Shield means nothing. All right. Pelo OP says, hey, Danike, I remember you telling Code Mickey he did lie. This is your first line of Ateta there. It passed Code Mickey, you won't cry. Interesting. Jojo Enchi says, won't you go and endorse somebody if you were promised goodies every month? Okay, good. Interesting. All right. More messages on the show, of course. I'll try and see if I can get to some of them. But Karim Adamu is here with a wrap of the Ghanaian players abroad who have been making moves. Karim, what have you got for us?
Probably the last one of the series on the transfers.
Yeah?
This one, we just sum it up. We won't cover everything, but
no problem.
I'm sure
let's run through them. Ghanaian players everywhere making moves.
So is it 2 weeks ago or something? I came to say Schindler is jobless, but now he's found a job. I'm coming to say it again that Schindler has found a job. After leaving Cologne, he's gone to Turkey to sign for Samson Sport on a 2-year deal. Then this guy, Samuel Amiao, almost 17 years winger for Brighton, Southampton. He made his debut last season as a substitute. Okay. Then he signed a 3-year contract extension for Southampton. Then Mohamed Salisu, probably the biggest one over this period. He's joined Monaco from Southampton from one extending. So he's signed 5 years for AS Monaco after 3 years at Southampton. Okay. Then we come to Ragnar Archie. He's left Frankfurt and gone to Kaiserslautern on a permanent move for 1 million euros, but they've not shared how many years he's going to be there for. Then Gideon Ba, former Asante
Gideon Ba is still playing.
He's not playing, he's a coach now. So he was at Motown.
Okay.
Motown, I don't know if you can recognize a team like that in the US. You've been there for a year or something.
Don't be silly.
Morrison Town.
Motown Records.
Morrison Town. Do you know any town like that in the US?
Once again, don't be silly.
He has been there for about a year and he's leaving.
Let's move on.
New Jersey, Morrison Town at New Jersey. He was their player coach for about a year and a half, but he's left 31 years. So maybe he's got
more bigger. Is New Jersey a city or a state?
It's Motown exit.
No, he's exited Motown.
But he's left.
He's left.
Yes.
Right.
You know America. Is New Jersey a city or a state?
I beg, let's go.
All right, let's go on.
Emmanuel Ogura, 25 years old, former Right to Dream Academy player. He's gone to North Zealand, but they've sent him out on loan last season to Hellerup, a team in the second division. That's a third-tier competition in Denmark, and his loan has ended. Then we come to Enes Ejiri, former Man City player. He was at Liverpool last season. He scored 11 goals and provided 7 assists. Then he's joined Randers in Denmark for 3 years. Then we come to Hafiz Konkoni. This guy has made a move from Bechim United to Young Africans in Tanzania for 2 years. They've paid $100,000 for him. Then we come to Benjamin Tete, Hull City, from Hull City to Metz in the French League One. His time there was riddled with injuries. As we speak, they said he's done his medicals and are waiting to be unveiled as a player there. Then we come to Jennifer Kujo, the former Ajax lady player. He left there about 2012-2013 to the US, played for Gotham, 7 years there. Now he's gone to New Zealand for 1 year. Then we wrap it up with Doris Bodua. Her move was confirmed today from Ajax ladies to Spartak Subotica in the Serbian League. The last Ghanaian player to play there is NS Edmond Adu, and he's joined Red Star Belgrade in the same year. Then Doris is signing 1 year. We understand it could be renewed if things go well. That's it.
Interesting. Very well done.
I'm a big fan of Doris.
Yeah, a big fan. So Doris Boydua, we wish her the very best of luck. But let's wrap up with this. The Women's World Cup, the biggest game today was between Nigeria and England. Nigeria lost the game on penalty shooter. Lauren James, younger sister of Reece James, got sent off. But Nigeria made themselves really proud in that game. On Sunday, the USA got kicked out of the competition. It shocked many people because they won the last 2 editions of the tournament. But yeah, they got kicked out. This is a Nigeria game. Of course, it was an enthralling